picture this. They have absolutely no brain, no heart, no muscles, no true organs whatsoever. Yet, these extraordinary animals have survived for over 600 million years. I mean, think about that for a second. Before fish, before the dinosaurs, even before the very first forests appeared on land, they were already out there silently filtering Earth's oceans. Welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today we are diving deep into Phylum Porifera. We're going to explore Earth's simplest multicellular animals and uncover the honestly incredible hidden complexity of the sea sponge. These ancient architects are out there right now, continuing to purify our marine ecosystems, supporting immense biodiversity, and revealing the very earliest chapters of animal evolution. To really wrap our heads around these living fossils, we're going to follow a pretty structured roadmap today. We'll start by meeting the sponges. Then we'll check out their habitats and lifestyles, trace the flow of water, break down the 3 body layers, and finally, we'll zoom way in to explore their cellular specialists. Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1. Meet the sponges. So when we talk about sponges, we're looking at creatures that are asymmetrical and entirely sessile. And if you're not familiar with that term, it just means they anchor themselves to one single spot for their entire lives. They don't move around. Now, the name of their phylum, Porifera, hit the nail on the head when it comes to their survival strategy. It comes from Latin, right? Porus means channel or pore, and fere means to bear or carry. So they are quite literally the pore-bearing animals. Their whole physical form is basically this ancient, highly evolved biological sieve, perfectly designed to maximize contact with the water around them. Moving right along to Part 2, Habitats and Lifestyles. So where do these asymmetrical filter feeders actually live out in the wild? Well, they are exclusively aquatic. You're mostly going to find them in marine environments, so our oceans and seas. And they live everywhere from vibrant shallow coral reefs all the way down to the freezing, pitch-black depths of the deep sea. These marine sponges are usually the ones showing off those brilliant, bright colors, painting the ocean floor in these vivid reds, yellows, and purples. But it's not just a saltwater game. There are freshwater sponges, too. You'll find them thriving in lakes and streams, though they typically take on more of a greenish color. But here is the absolute crucial takeaway. There are 0 terrestrial sponges. No land sponges exist, and for good reason. Without water physically suspending them and constantly flowing through them, their entire cellular system would just completely collapse. Which brings us perfectly to Part 3, the flow of water. Because a sponge doesn't have a stomach, its digestion is entirely cell-dependent. That means a continuous, non-stop flow of water is literally their lifeline. Take a look at this structural layout. You can see how the basic body plan is. Well, it's essentially a hollow vase that is absolutely riddled with tiny holes. Notice those arrows tracing the continuous water current? Now, what's wild is they aren't pumping this water with muscles like we would pump blood. Instead, highly specialized microscopic structures are constantly, tirelessly pulling oceanic water into their bodies, filtering out nutrients with just jaw-dropping efficiency. Let's actually walk through the exact 3-step journey of that water. It's a remarkably elegant system. Step 1, water enters the sponge through thousands of tiny pore openings scattered all over its outer surface. These are called the ostia. Step 2, the water flows directly into the large central internal cavity, which we call the spongicle. This is where the real magic happens. This is where they extract their vital food particles and dissolved oxygen. And finally, step 3, the water, which has now been filtered and is carrying away cellular waste, is propelled upward and pushed right out the large opening at the very top known as the osculum. It's a continuous, beautifully simple, and endlessly effective plumbing system. All right, Part 4, the 3 body layers. How exactly do you build a functioning animal body without any true tissues? Well, you can think of the sponge body like a microscopic sandwich made up of 3 very distinct layers. On the outside, you have the pinacoderm. This is a protective outer layer made of flattened cells, kind of like their version of skin. On the inside, lining that big central cavity we just talked about, is the coachinoderm, which is absolutely packed with highly specialized flagellated cells. And then sandwiched right in the middle is the mesohyle. Now, the mesohyle is really interesting because it's actually a gelatinous, non-living, acellular middle layer. It acts as the structural jelly holding the whole organism together, while also providing a sort of internal highway for mobile cells to travel around and do their jobs. And that leads us to our final section, Part 5, Cellular Specialists. Let's compare the 2 primary players that make this whole system work. On the outside, protecting the sponge, we have the pinacocytes. Like we mentioned, these are flat, plate-like cells on the outer surface. But here's where it gets cool. Some of these pinacocytes actually transform into tube-like structures called porocytes. These porocytes literally create the ostia, those tiny pores connecting the outside ocean to the inside cavity and regulating the water circulation. Then, on the inside, we have the true engines of the sponge, the choanocytes, also known as collar cells. These are inner cylindrical cells, and each one is equipped with a single whip-like tail called a flagellum. The synchronized whipping motion of millions of these tiny flagella all working together is exactly what generates that powerful water current we mapped out earlier. They are the ones physically catching the microscopic food particles and snatching oxygen right out of the flowing water. But they aren't working alone. Within that gelatinous middle layer, the mesohyal, there's an incredible supporting cast operating behind the scenes. Remember, the sponge has no bloodstream, right? So instead, it relies on amoebocytes. These mobile cells roam through the jelly matrix like tiny delivery drivers, grabbing nutrients from the choanocytes and carrying them to every other cell in the body. Then you have sclerocytes. These guys secrete intricate silica structures called spicules, which act as a microscopic scaffolding to give the sponge its physical shape and structural support. And finally, we have the oocytes, which are the vital reproductive egg cells that ensure this ancient lineage keeps on surviving. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we've seen how single cells can take on the roles of mouths, stomachs, skeletons, and circulatory systems, which really leaves us with this final, profound thought to ponder. If an animal can perfectly filter feed, elegantly circulate water, and successfully thrive across the entire globe for hundreds of millions of years without a brain, without a heart, or without a single true organ, what does it truly mean to be complex? Thanks so much for joining me for this masterclass. Keep seeking out the brilliant structures hidden in our natural world, and I'll catch you in the next one.